So I believe that you could have been released, is it 10 years earlier than you were?
Well, my tariff was 10 years, but, you know, I'd served 14 years before I was informed that my tariff was 10 years because it was kept secret up until then.
Oh, really? So
yeah, everything in the early days was kept secret, even the rules and regulations of the prison.
So you weren't aware of your rights at all?
No, nothing whatsoever. You find them out slowly but surely. This is why things take years and years and years to go through. Like I say, I didn't actually get a copy of my own depositions until I'd been in prison for 15 years. I had no idea of the case against me. You know, I'd been in prison for maybe 6 or 7 years before I actually even realised I was a discretionary lifer and not a mandatory lifer, because nobody had ever explained anything to me about it.
I guess when you went in, you were so young that you didn't go in with any knowledge. So
No.
if you weren't going to learn it while you were in there, then you wouldn't know.
You know, and it was only later on I started discovering these things, and then of course the system changed in that you were then allowed to like read reports that were written about you and be involved personally in the processes that go on, whereas before it was all kept secret. You weren't allowed to know anything, and nobody's told you anything. And you know, I wasn't in a position where I'd ever go up and ask anybody anything anyway. They were the enemy.
Yeah.
They were the enemy, and that's exactly as how I saw them. But saying that, I can't really sit here now and turn around and say, well, I hate this prison officer and I hate that prison officer because of what they did or anything else. I don't hate them. I ain't going to waste a single second of my time on them. They ain't worth it.
If you're holding on to hatred, I guess they're still controlling your life, aren't
I'm
they?
not going to allow it. I still have the anger, but as I've always done, not entirely, but mostly, I mean, I turn that anger inwards. And, you know, that displays itself as, you know, eating disorders and thoughts of suicide, and I can be really, really disturbed at times and agitated, and, you know, other times really, really aggressive. But, you know, that's just, I suppose, one of the legacies, and, you know, in some ways inevitable, I guess.
Did you ever feel for a moment, I'm just going to admit say I'm guilty just to hopefully be released early? Did you ever just feel that absolute desperation to be released earlier than you would be? Or did you just constantly think, no, I am innocent and I'll leave here as an innocent man?
No.
You never felt that temptation?
No, because people seem to think of it as being, you know, one way of getting out. It's actually not true. You know, it's actually a false statement, because how do you admit to a crime that you know nothing whatsoever about?
Yeah.
You know, because they don't just say to you, are you guilty? Yes. Okay, we'll let you out now.
Yeah,
You've served your time. Are you guilty? Yes. Well, inevitably, there's another question after that is, why did you do this? Well, how do you explain that? Because I don't know how to.
Yeah.
What did you feel when you did it? What were you thinking when you did it? Well, I don't know. You know, so what do? Make something up and try and, you know, remember it for the next 25 years?
Yeah.
I've got the memory span of a goldfish. I can't remember what I did 10 minutes ago. You know, it's a waste of time. But it is actually a false statement. It doesn't actually really work. And, you know, there's no way, you know, I couldn't have said that anyway. It's not in me. And in the end, why the should I?
Yeah.
Why should I?
Sure.
Why should I say anything I don't believe just because they want me to say it? You know, I'm more bloody-minded than that, and more likely to say the exact opposite, just to piss them off, and just to annoy them even more, and just to disrupt their system and disrupt the way they're doing everything.
And I guess that if you did say you were guilty, it was kind of letting them win in a way. Do you feel?
Yeah, it was in some ways. I mean, that was the problem I had later on going through open prison, and that I had a real hard time with that. Real hard time with it, because I didn't want to do that, but at the same time, I was in a different situation. I was in a different place. And I've always been on my own. You know, at that time, I wasn't on my own. You know, and
so you've been on your sort of in a cell on your own, you mean?
No, I mean
in
on
that
my
way?
own personally.
On your own in
I
general,
mean,
yeah. Oh, I see what
I'd
you
actually
mean.
met somebody then, and you know, I wanted to get out of prison, and you know, I wanted to be with them. So I actually agreed to go to an open prison, and I mean, this is a bit further down in the chain of the story, I guess. But yeah, I'd met somebody, and I wanted my life back.
So you met that person while you were in prison?
Yeah.
And were they also in prison, or how did you?
Oh no. I hope she wasn't. It was a male
How
prison.
did that come across? How did
It's
you?
just
how
someone
did
I
you
met
meet?
through, you know, through a friend, and you know, it was my first sort of like serious relationship, I guess. You know, and I just wanted different things. Plus, I mean, I've been through a period then when I was in Full Sutton, which is horrible prison, horrible place, very badly run, and nothing really positive to say about it whatsoever. And you know, I was in a situation there where I was pretty much dying. I was pretty much dying there, and I had to make a decision whether I was actually going to die there or not. And I decided that I wasn't.
What made you think no, I want to live?
Me, who I am and what I'm about. So I decided one day I wasn't going to smoke heroin anymore, and I didn't.
Really?
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
decided yourself and stopped?
Didn't do it anymore. Physically, I was really quite seriously ill physically. Mentally, I was really quite seriously ill, and you know, I had a raging heroin habit to boot, and at the same time being very insulated and isolated and cut off. And you know, it was a lot of the guys in the jail who actually got me through that time. It wasn't the prison system or anything else about it. They were the ones that were causing the problems, not curing them. You know, so yeah, I had to make a conscious decision that I was either going to pick myself up and carry on fighting, or you know, I was probably going to die there.
And you decided?
Yeah,
no,
I decided I wasn't going to die in jail. I wasn't going to give them that pleasure.
Okay, so now you're out of prison and you've been in the real world for a few years now. Do you still have feelings of sort of anger and frustration, and how do you cope with that, or have you been trying to deal with that over the last few years?
I don't think you ever do cope with it. You never ever cope with it, and I never ever have. And you know, people really, you know, do say that quite often now. Well, you've actually coped with it, but you don't. You survive it, and that's all I've ever done. I've survived, and that's what it really was about. It was actually about surviving, because you know, I came so close to the edge so many times while I was in prison that, you know, it actually no longer really ever scared me. You know, but it was literally a matter of survival, and you know, not always in your own